a striking moment in the courtroom, or a catalyst for justice. When Judge Edward Hargrove struck White House Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt in front of a crowded courtroom, he believed he could wield his authority to stifle her voice. However, he was unprepared for the way that audacious move would rattle his corrupt empire to its very foundation in a mere 4 minutes. Before we embark on this narrative journey, please share your location in the comments and remember to subscribe to stay updated with the latest tales. Washington, D.C. constantly seems to be a battleground of conflicting forces. The expansive avenues, grand marble structures, and monuments to heroes conceal profound conflicts that remain unaddressed. Bathed in the soft glow of the morning sun, the Capitol sparkles with a radiant charm, yet the atmosphere is thick with political division. Donald Trump has been re-elected once again. The city resonates with murmurs of allegiance and defiance. In cozy coffee shops and the grand halls of power, spirited debates unfold regarding the nation's future. However, in the federal courthouse, the truth must confront the blade of justice. Or at least that's the aspiration shared by all. Judge Edward Hargrove enters the courtroom with the assuredness of someone who has balanced the scales of justice for more than 30 years. At 63, he stands as a formidable figure in the judicial system. His salt and pepper hair meticulously styled and his piercing blue eyes keenly observant. Hargrove exudes an intellectual presence. Yet lingering in the shadows are murmurs of partiality, decisions that appear to align with those opposing Trump, and cases that inexplicably disappear. He remains unfazed by the murmurs around him. In Hargrove's eyes, the courtroom stands as his realm, where he reigns supreme. Today, he oversees a delicate lawsuit involving a pro-Trump media outlet that stands accused of disseminating misinformation to sway public perception. The courtroom, adorned with its neoclassical columns and softly glowing fluorescent lights, hums with the eager energy of reporters and lawyers alike. Karoline Leavitt, 27, moves through security with the confident stride of someone familiar with being in the limelight. The youngest press secretary in history, she stands out as a remarkable figure. Her blonde hair neatly pulled back, keen eyes, and a voice capable of transforming any challenging question into a chance for dialogue. Leavitt serves a role beyond that of merely being Trump's spokesperson. She embodies the America First movement, a fearless champion in the media landscape ready to confront anyone. Today, she finds herself at the courthouse, summoned to shed light on the White House's dealings with the media organization facing litigation. As she glides through the doors, security guards acknowledge her presence with nods and a few smiles. Yet Leavitt merely offers a subtle nod in return. In her mind, a lengthy list of tasks awaits. Today's press briefing, a speech requiring revisions, yet she feels an unsettling presence. Her keen instincts, refined over years of engaging with the media, resonate like a warning signal. The courtroom buzzes with anticipation as journalists occupy the back rows, pens at the ready, while a handful of lawyers exchange hushed words among themselves. Hargrove occupies the bench, still unrobed, as he meticulously examines a pile of documents. He glances up as Leavitt walks in, a brief flash of annoyance crossing his features. He knows her well, that recognizable face from the press briefings, staunchly defending Trump with unwavering assurance. His voice low and laced with contempt, he murmurs to himself about Trump's girl. Leavitt settles into the third row, her gaze sweeping across the room, taking in the journalists and the security cameras positioned in the upper corner. The trial opens with unremarkable testimony, yet the atmosphere swiftly thickens as a defense attorney brings up the issue of media bias directed at the administration. Hargrove strikes his gavel, his voice cutting through the air like a knife. Order, I will not accept any foolishness in this courtroom. Leavitt, positioned close to the lawyer's table as a witness, tilts her head slightly, a subtle yet significant gesture, as if questioning his statements. Hargrove's gaze traverses her figure, lingering as he identifies the familiar visage from the televised briefings. You're Leavitt, he declares, his voice heavy with suggestion, bordering on accusation, the spokesperson for Trump. Leavitt stands from the witness chair, her voice steady yet resolute. Indeed, I stand before you as a witness. Yet I must inquire if this court can guarantee impartiality in adjudicating a matter so steeped in political tension. Her words, while courteous, ignite tension in an already volatile atmosphere. The reporters at the rear begin to jot down notes, while the audience whispers quietly among themselves. Hargrove grits his teeth, his complexion flushing with intensity. He's unaccustomed to facing public scrutiny, particularly from someone like Leavitt, whom he perceives as the very representation of an administration he loathes. "What are you suggesting, Miss Leavitt?" he snarls, his voice quaking with fury, his hand clutching the edge of the bench. Leavitt maintains his stare, unwavering. "I simply wish to guarantee that justice remains unaffected by bias, sir." Her words, incisive and relentless, fill the space with an oppressive tension. A reporter murmurs, "She just aimed a shot at him." Hargrove rises suddenly, his gaze fierce and intense. "Enough!" he bellows, his voice reverberating throughout the space. With a mix of wounded pride and growing anger, he descends from the bench, moves swiftly down the wooden steps, and makes his way toward Leavitt. The security guards linger, caught in a moment of uncertainty about whether to take action. Every gaze is fixed upon him, the atmosphere charged with anticipation. Hargrove halts a short distance from Leavitt, his breath coming in labored gasps. "Do you really believe you can confront me here?" he erupts, his voice trembling with the fury that has accumulated from weeks of relentless public scrutiny regarding his partial decisions. Leavitt stands her ground, her gaze unwavering as it meets his. "I'm simply stating the facts," she responds, her tone icy, as the audience collectively pauses, feeling the tension in the air ready to ignite. Hargrove, driven to his breaking point by her defiance and the weight of the room's gaze, succumbs to a loss of control. He lifts his hand and strikes Leavitt sharply across the cheek, the crack of impact slicing through the stillness of the room. "Learn some respect," he shouts, his voice trembling with fury. Reporters hold their breath. The sound of pages turning fades. A pen clatters to the ground. The cameras perched in the corner observe all, their crimson lights flickering steadily. Leavitt remains composed, her fingers brushing gently against her cheek, where a crimson mark has emerged, as she gazes directly at Hargrove. "You've just crossed a line," she states, her tone unwavering, cutting through the air like a finely honed edge. Hargrove retreats, his breath coming in fits, as if he has just grasped the weight of his decision. Yet his hubris remains unshaken. "You dare threaten me," he snaps, though the earlier confidence in his voice has faded. The audience buzzes with whispers. "Oh my, he just slapped her." A lawyer murmurs, "That's the press secretary." Leavitt maintains Hargrove's gaze, unwavering. "I will ensure that everyone in the nation is aware of this," she responds, her tone unwavering and determined. Writers tap away at their keyboards, devices buzz with alerts. Hargrove steps back to the bench, calls for a recess, and departs, leaving the room in a state of disbelief, his actions reverberating through the air. The courtroom door crashes closed behind Judge Edward Hargrove, yet the reverberation of the impact hangs in the atmosphere. Reporters spring from their chairs, devices in hand, voices clashing in a whirlwind of excitement. "Miss Leavitt, do you have any thoughts to share?" A journalist calls out, the microphone almost grazing her cheek, where the red mark lingers softly. Karoline Leavitt remains poised, her gaze unwavering and resolute. She feels the weight of every gaze upon her, not only in this room but from millions beyond, as #slaps_Leavitt ascends to the top spot on Twitter. "I'll speak when the time is right," she declares, her tone steady, as she strides out of the courthouse, leaving the onlookers in disbelief. Sunlight pours through the stone columns of the courthouse, yet the atmosphere is thick, reminiscent of the moments just before a tempest. Leavitt strides directly to a waiting black SUV, where her aide Sarah Coleman is seated with an open laptop. Sarah, a 30-year-old lawyer with her brown hair pulled back and keen, sharp eyes, has been closely monitoring the incident through a journalist's live stream. "Karoline, the nation is in turmoil," Sarah exclaims, Pivoting the screen to showcase a trending tweet, Judge Hargrove reprimands the White House press secretary. Fairness or prejudice? Leavitt settles into the back seat. The door shuts, and at last, she permits herself a long, deep breath. Hargrove believes he can evade the consequences. She asserts. Her voice was soft yet unwavering. He is mistaken. As the SUV glides through the boulevards of D.C., Leavitt retrieves her phone and dials a well-known number. She says she needs to meet with the comms team right away. No introduction necessary. As the press secretary, she understands the influence of storytelling, and she won't allow Hargrove to dictate the next chapter. The slap transcended mere violence. It represented a fissure in the fortress of power that Hargrove had meticulously constructed. Leavitt, seizing the moment, aims to dismantle it entirely, while Sarah continues to type furiously on her laptop. I've contacted Ethan Carter, the investigative reporter from the Capitol Post, and he is interested in meeting. He believes Hargrove's image of cleanliness is misleading. Leavitt gives a slight nod. Excellent. I require all that he possesses. Meanwhile, in his secluded courthouse office, Hargrove sinks into his chair, his hands quivering ever so slightly as he examines the information on his clerk's phone. The surveillance footage captured every moment. The strike, his growl, and Leavitt's unwavering gaze. Frustration escapes him as he mutters under his breath. Flinging the phone onto the desk, he reaches out to James Whitaker, a federal prosecutor and a trusted companion for many years. She stirred something in me, James, Hargrove states, his voice trembling with effort to maintain composure. She was fully aware of her intentions. Whitaker's response on the speaker is icy. She's part of Trump's circle. She'll transform this into a mission. We must move swiftly. Hargrove acknowledges, though no one is aware. Contact the Judges Association. Prepare a statement clarifying that it was a misunderstanding, and devise a strategy to silence her. However, Leavitt is determined to make his voice heard. With purpose, she enters the briefing room at the White House, where the communications team awaits her arrival. A vast screen showcases social media updates. Some refer to her as a casualty. Some claim she orchestrated it to gain Trump's approval. An aide mentions that they're splitting the narrative. Leavitt offers a faint smile. They always do, yet this time will guide the narrative. She is seeking an exclusive interview with a network that is favorable to Trump tonight, during which she will publicly demand an investigation into Hargrove for abuse of power. If he believes that a slap will quiet my voice. She informs the team that he is unaware of the challenge he faces. Meanwhile, Ethan Carter, a slender journalist with circular spectacles and a knack for uncovering the hidden truths of D.C., occupies a seat in a cafe close to the courthouse. He peruses ancient notes on Hargrove, contentious decisions, missing cases, murmurs of corruption. When Sarah reaches out, Ethan consents to meet Leavitt, but with a stipulation. I don't work for the White House. I pursue the truth no matter where it takes me. Sarah responds on the phone that Karoline desires that as well. She embraces the truth without fear. Returning to the White House, Leavitt seizes a rare opportunity to glance at her personal phone, where a message from her husband awaits, accompanied by a snapshot of their son enjoying time in the yard. Are you all right? I caught the latest headlines. She offers a smile, yet her eyes betray a weighty burden. The slap left more than just a red mark on her cheek. It served as a poignant reminder of the price associated with her role. She responds with swift keystrokes. I'm doing well, returning home shortly, yet she understands that soon is a delicate assurance. Hargrove is more than a judge who lost his grip. He represents the very system she has vowed to confront. She rises, straightens her jacket, and makes her way back to the briefing room, ready to prepare the statement. She informs the team that they are calling for a Justice Department investigation into Hargrove, not merely for the slap, but for all that he embodies. As twilight descends upon D.C., Ethan Carter composes an email to Sarah, complete with an attachment. A previous decision by Hargrove dismissed a lawsuit targeting an anti-Trump interest group, even in the face of compelling evidence. Ethan's note is concise. This is merely the beginning. Hargrove is not operating in isolation. In the muted glow of her office, Leavitt reads the email that Sarah has forwarded. With her eyes shut tight, she inhales deeply. Hargrove's slap marked a misstep on his part, yet it presents her with a chance, not merely to retaliate, but to unveil a dominion founded on prejudice and unbridled authority. She awakens, her stare intense. "This is where we begin," she says to Sarah, her voice filled with determination. In a modest office within the White House, Karoline Leavitt faces Sarah Coleman, her gaze shifting over a pile of papers recently delivered by Ethan Carter. A vintage ruling by Judge Edward Hargrove, with its stark, typed lines, serves as the initial fragment of the puzzle. Evidence shows that he dismissed a lawsuit against a group opposing Trump, even with clear indications of misconduct. Sarah insists this isn't random. Her voice was soft yet cutting. Hargrove exhibits a clear partiality. He is safeguarding another individual. Leavitt acknowledges with a nod, her fingers dancing gently on the surface of the desk. "And we shall uncover the truth behind it all." Hargrove's slap has escalated into a very public confrontation. Following last night's interview, during which Leavitt urged a Justice Department inquiry into his actions, the hashtag Hargrove scandal has surged ahead of Judge Slaps Leavitt, rapidly circulating on Twitter and TikTok with snippets from the courtroom. However, Leavitt understands that achieving success on social media alone is insufficient. Hargrove stands apart as a judge unlike any other. He's just a small part of a vast system, and that system is pushing back. Articles start to emerge, labeling her as a provocateur or an ally of Trump. Some delve into her history, tracing back to her college days at St. Anselm and her initial work for Trump, attempting to portray her as a political opportunist. Leavitt peruses them with a subtle smile, yet beneath the surface, she senses the gravity of this struggle. Ethan Carter, surrounded by the organized chaos of his office at the Capitol Post, is delving further into Hargrove's record. He examines decisions from the last 5 years, searching for trends. One instance shines brightly. Hargrove rejected allegations of fraud concerning a nonprofit organization opposing Trump. Even with prosecutors showcasing proof of unlawful transfers, Ethan notes, too many decisions swayed. Who stands with him? He sends an email to Sarah, including a list of other questionable cases. It's worth mentioning that Hargrove has company in this endeavor. "I must arrange a meeting with Leavitt." Sarah sends the email her way. Leavitt, while getting ready for another press briefing, consents to meet Ethan tonight. In the quiet ambience of a Georgetown restaurant, Hargrove finds himself seated opposite James Whitaker, the federal prosecutor and a trusted confidant. The soft glow of the chandelier casts shadows across Hargrove's features. "She just keeps going, James," he insists. With a firm grip on his drink, "She aims to cast me as the scapegoat." Whitaker, his silver hair glinting, leans in with a chilling smile. "Ed, please take a deep breath. We've dealt with more challenging situations. The Association of Judges will ensure your protection. They prefer to keep this from disrupting the system." He halts, his gaze cutting and keen. However, Leavitt is the issue. With the support of the White House, she expertly navigates the media landscape. "We must undermine her credibility." Quickly, Hargrove acknowledges, yet within, a flicker of apprehension ignites. The slap was far more than a mere error. He opened a door without even realizing it. As dusk settles, Leavitt steps out of her office, the warm hues of sunset casting a red glow upon the stone walls of the White House. As she makes her way to the coffee shop where Ethan is waiting, she glances at her phone and notices a message from an unfamiliar number. "Cease your actions, Leavitt, or your loved ones will face the consequences." She halts, her breath momentarily suspended. The memory of her son, only a few months old, dances vividly in her thoughts. She sends the message to Sarah, adding a note, "Enhanced security at my residence." As she steps into the coffee shop, Ethan is already seated, a cold coffee awaiting him on the table. "Are you all right?" he inquires, observing the tension etched on her features. Leavitt takes a seat, setting aside his discomfort. "I'm doing well. What did you discover?" Ethan flips open his laptop, revealing a chart detailing Hargrove's cases. Over the past 3 years, he has either dismissed or mitigated at least 7 lawsuits associated with anti-Trump organizations, even in the face of compelling evidence. And here he indicates a line. A non-profit organization based in Atlanta, associated with significant political contributors, appears in 3 cases. I have a feeling that Hargrove received compensation for those decisions. Leavitt leans in, her gaze intense. Who is covering the payment? Ethan gives a nonchalant shrug. I'm still contemplating. However, I possess a source, a former court clerk from Hargrove's. She claims he coerced her into concealing a significant financial matter. She's open to conversation, but only under safe conditions. Leavitt gives a slight nod. Arrange the meeting. I want to hear it directly from her. As Leavitt exits the coffee shop, her phone vibrates once more. Yet another message from a mysterious number. You have no idea who you're dealing with. She clutches the phone with fierce determination, her anger eclipsing any trace of fear. Hargrove and his kind believe they can intimidate her into submission, but she discovered long ago, during her time with Trump, that fear can be transformed into power. She contacts Sarah, tracks this number, and gets in touch with the Justice Department. A thorough investigation into Hargrove is necessary, not only regarding the incident but also concerning all that he may be concealing. Within the confines of his office, Hargrove receives a call from Whitaker. She is in conversation with the Justice Department. Whitaker states, his voice taut, if they explore Ed, they'll uncover things we prefer to keep hidden. Hargrove tightens his fist, his gaze locked on a photograph on his desk, depicting him in robes, surrounded by colleagues. She's merely a girl, he murmurs, yet his tone betrays uncertainty. Whitaker lets out a humorless chuckle. She's an explosive force, and you sparked the ignition. Washington, D.C. echoes with murmurs and the flicker of press flashes. Yet within a modest White House office, Karoline Leavitt perceives solely the rhythm of her own heartbeat. She sits opposite Sarah Coleman, her gaze fixed on a laptop screen showcasing Ethan Carter's most recent email. A file is attached that includes copies of bank transactions, detailing funds transferred from a shell company in Atlanta to an account associated with a nonprofit, Hargrove, which was previously safeguarded by a ruling. This is it, Sarah exclaims, her voice quivering with anticipation. Hargrove's partiality isn't merely a matter of opinion. He's financially incentivized to maintain that stance. Leavitt leans in, her gaze keen and piercing. Who is the driving force behind the company? Sarah gives a slight shake of her head. Ethan continues his investigation, asserting that it connects to major figures, truly significant ones. Hargrove's slap has faded into the background, eclipsed by the magnitude of Leavitt's revelations. The Hargrove scandal is taking over social media, as courtroom clips circulate widely, but the smear campaign against her is intensifying as well. Some articles label her as a witch hunter or a puppet of Trump, sifting through trivial aspects of her tenure in the White House mailroom. One even implies that she instigated Hargrove to garner attention. Leavitt swipes through them on her phone, her delicate smile laced with a hint of resentment. She's familiar with assaults, yet these seem like a frantic effort to obscure something more significant. Ethan Carter, at the Capitol Post, toils through the night to piece together the puzzle. He has contacted Ellen Harper, a former court clerk, and she has consented to meet at a serene coffee shop on the outskirts of D.C. In the soft glow of the dim lights, Ellen, her gray hair framing a face marked by worry, begins to unfold her tale. Hargrove didn't merely instruct me to shred a report. She confides, her fingers wrapped around her tea. He encountered Whitaker later, in seclusion. I overheard their discussion on maintaining stability. Whitaker possessed a briefcase. I can't say for certain what it contained, but I certainly don't lack awareness. Ethan captures the moment in silence, his heart pounding with anticipation. Will you share your testimony in public? He inquires. Ellen blinks, uncertainty flickering in her eyes. If Miss Leavitt can assure my protection, I will agree to speak. Meanwhile, at the federal courthouse, Hargrove stands by his office window, gazing out at the bustling traffic of D.C. His gaze is hollow, his fists tight and pale. A conversation with Whitaker has just concluded, delivering a distinct message. She's approaching Ed. The Justice Department is requesting your previous rulings. It is imperative that we take action. Hargrove pivots, his voice raspy. She is merely a girl, James. What makes her so perilous? Whitaker, speaking into the microphone, lets out a dry chuckle. She possesses a fearless spirit, yet she has the power to instill fear in others. Hargrove nods, yet uncertainty eats away at him. He has constructed a vast dominion through manipulation, yet Leavitt is methodically deconstructing it, one fragment at a time. Leavitt, returning to the White House, receives a message from Sarah regarding Ellen Harper. She swiftly instructs the legal team to reach out to the Justice Department regarding witness protection, all while getting ready for a public press conference. As she glances at her phone, a message from an unfamiliar number pops up. You may believe you're clever, but you have no idea who is truly orchestrating Hargrove. Cease your actions, or your spouse may not return this evening. She halts, her breath momentarily suspended. The vision of her husband, adorned with his gentle smile, dances in her thoughts. She sends the message to Sarah, her tone resolute. Discover its origins. I seek to uncover the identity of the individuals responsible. Sarah nods, yet her eyes reveal a hint of concern. Karoline, they're not playing fair. Perhaps we ought to take a step back. Leavitt gazes at her intently. Taking a step back allows them to claim victory. She swiftly contacts security, insisting on stringent monitoring of her family, yet remains unyielding. In a private gathering, she confronts the legal advisors from the White House. Hargrove is more than a judge, she asserts, her voice resonating with a metallic clarity. He is connected to a web of prosecutors, organizations, and affluent individuals. If we pause, we allow them to continue manipulating justice. A careful advisor replies, You're challenging the entire structure, Karoline. Victory won't come to you without a struggle. Leavitt smiles, undeterred. I always knew it wouldn't come without its challenges. Ethan, in the meantime, discovers yet another crucial element. An email that has come to light reveals communication from Whitaker to Hargrove, discussing a contribution from the Atlanta company aimed at maintaining equilibrium in an election lawsuit. Ethan forwards the document to Sarah, accompanied by a note. This is explosive. However, if it becomes public knowledge, they will seek us out. In the dim light of her office, Leavitt reads the email that Sarah has forwarded to her. She comes to understand that Hargrove is involved in more than merely accepting bribes. He is involved in a scheme orchestrating cases to undermine Trump's supporters, including donors and media organizations. She replies to Ethan's message. Arranged with Ellen, we present ourselves at the hearing. In his office, Hargrove opens a package from Whitaker, containing fresh smear articles poised to tarnish Leavitt's reputation. As he carefully opens it, a handwritten note slips out unexpectedly. She has knowledge of Atlanta. Address it before the opportunity slips away. Hargrove incinerates the note in an ashtray, his gaze deepening with shadows. He punches in a number he doesn't recognize, his voice barely above a whisper. Quiet her. No evidence left behind. The voice on the other end responds with a serene composure. Got it. Leavitt gazes out from a White House window, taking in the shimmering lights of the city. The words that threatened her husband echo in her thoughts, yet they only strengthen her determination. Hargrove and his network believe they can intimidate her into submission, but they underestimate her resolve. A woman who has confronted the media, politicians, and public upheavals with unwavering resolve. She glances at Sarah, who is busy organizing the documents for the upcoming hearing. She suggests contacting the Justice Department. It is imperative that all evidence is secured, and that Ellen Harper's safety is ensured. Sarah nods, but she interjects, Karoline, they won't play by the rules this time. Leavitt beams, her eyes alight with intensity. They've never faced consequences, but I will ensure they do. The federal courtroom, located in Washington, D.C., vibrates with the burden of anticipation. In the back rows, reporters gather, their cameras capturing every moment. as the glow of phone screens illuminates the scene with real-time updates. The controversy surrounding Hargrove. Karoline Leavitt enters with a confident gait, her gaze keen and penetrating. Clad in a navy suit, her blonde hair pulled back with precision, her true strength emanates from an unwavering determination rather than mere looks. Today marks the public hearing she advocated for, where Judge Edward Hargrove will be held accountable for his actions, and Leavitt is absent to offer any apologies. She has arrived to dismantle the barrier he has constructed. Hargrove occupies the defense table, his expression taut, his once bright blue eyes now lacking luster, reminiscent of someone coming to terms with a loss of control. His judicial robe has given way to a gray suit, yet he endeavors to maintain an aura of authority, as though he remains the sovereign in this realm. Next to him stands his attorney, a man in his middle years with anxious eyes, aware that this case transcends Hargrove. It signifies a system in peril. Sarah Coleman, positioned just behind Leavitt, presents her with a folder containing leaked emails, bank records, and a handwritten statement from Ellen Harper, the former court clerk. "We have what we need to lay him to rest," Sarah whispers. Leavitt nods, her voice soft, acknowledging not just him, but all of them. Judge Margaret Ellis strikes her gavel, demanding silence in the courtroom. "We gather today to scrutinize the claims made against Judge Edward Hargrove," she proclaims, her voice resonating through the microphone. "Miss Leavitt, the floor is yours." Leavitt stands, her gaze scanning the room until it settles on Hargrove. She remains expressionless, her eyes unblinking. "Madam Chair, the blow I endured from Judge Hargrove was not merely an act of aggression," she begins, her tone unwavering yet incisive. "It represented a framework in which authority is wielded to safeguard individual gains rather than uphold fairness." The audience whispers quietly, reporters jotting down notes with urgency. She sets the folder down on the table, her voice rising with confidence. Evidence has emerged indicating that Judge Hargrove accepted bribes from a shell company in Atlanta, leading to biased rulings that favor groups opposing the current administration. There are emails exchanged between him and Prosecutor James Whitaker, where they talk about contributions to manipulate the election and financial lawsuits. We have the account of Miss Ellen Harper, who observed Hargrove instructing the destruction of evidence to conceal misconduct. She takes a moment, allowing her words to resonate throughout the space. Hargrove lowers his gaze, fists tightened, yet remains silent. Hargrove's attorney rises, his voice trembling. "These claims lack concrete evidence, Madam Chair. Miss Leavitt is transforming a private matter into a politically charged investigation." Leavitt interjects immediately, interrupting him. "Please clarify the contents of this email if it is merely conjecture." She raises a printout, reading aloud, "The contribution will maintain balance. Ed. The election lawsuit should be resolved and put to rest. Yours sincerely, James Whitaker." The atmosphere buzzes with hushed murmurs, flashes of cameras illuminating the scene. Hargrove glances upward, his complexion ashen. "That's a complete fabrication." He raises his voice, yet it trembles, lacking conviction. Judge Ellis strikes her gavel, calling for silence in the courtroom. "Miss Leavitt, please continue," she instructs. Leavitt nods, shifting his gaze to Ellen Harper, who occupies the witness row, her hands quivering yet her eyes unwavering. "Miss Harper, please share your observations with us." Ellen takes a deep breath, her voice soft but clear. "I saw Hargrove meet Whitaker after ordering me to shred a financial lawsuit report. He told me some things are bigger than justice. I stayed silent too long." The crowd falls silent, her words landing like a hammer. In an unexpected moment, the courtroom doors burst open, revealing James Whitaker, his expression tight and intense. Reporters shift, lenses adjusting. Leavitt gazes at him, unwavering. Whitaker, feeling the weight of every gaze, strides toward the witness table. "I request to speak," he declares, his voice trembling slightly. Hargrove's gaze shifts, a look of panic overtaking his features. "James, don't," he whispers. Yet Whitaker interrupts him. "I won't be taking the fall for you, Ed." He stands before Judge Ellis. Hargrove urged me to withdraw the lawsuits. He claimed it was directives from above. I have just followed. The room erupts with chaos. Reporters call out inquiries. Devices illuminate with new tweets. Whitaker, the prosecutor, levels accusations against Hargrove. Leavitt remains motionless, her gaze fixed on Hargrove, who sinks into his chair, as though every ounce of vitality has drained away. Who holds the upper hand? She inquires, her voice cut through the air like a knife. Whitaker hesitates, blinking, yet Leavitt's unwavering gaze offers no escape. I'm not familiar with particular names. He mutters, his voice feeble, lacking conviction. She directs her gaze towards Judge Ellis. I respectfully urge for a comprehensive federal investigation into the entirety of this network, extending beyond just Hargrove. Judge Ellis nods, her tone authoritative. Acknowledged. Judge Hargrove, you are hereby suspended without delay, pending a thorough investigation. Hargrove parts his lips, yet silence envelopes him. He gazes at Leavitt, his eyes reflecting a tumultuous blend of anger and fear. She forges ahead without a glance behind. She pivots and strides out of the courtroom, navigating through a throng of reporters, with cameras capturing every moment in a flurry of light. Sarah trails behind, murmuring, "You accomplished it." Leavitt gives a subtle shake of her head. Not at this moment. This marks the start of something greater. Beyond the courtroom, the digital landscape ignites with fervor. Hargrove experiences declines amid posts that commend Leavitt and critiques suggesting she is politicizing justice. As she rides in the car back to the White House, Leavitt glances at her phone and sees a message from her husband. "I'm proud of you." She offers a smile, yet her eyes betray a chilling detachment. Hargrove has succumbed, yet Whitaker has unveiled a deeper reality. Others linger above, concealed in the darkness. She sends a message to Ethan Carter. Discover the individuals responsible for Whitaker. The hearing marked a triumph, yet Leavitt understands that her struggle continues, and she is prepared to see it through to the end. Karoline Leavitt sits in her office, her gaze locked onto a TV screen that replays Hargrove's suspension. Footage of him, ghostly and frantic, plays repeatedly on news networks, intermingled with scenes of her delivering testimony at the hearing. The hashtag #HargroveDown reigns supreme on Twitter, yet Leavitt remains unfazed. James Whitaker's revelation that there were influential figures supporting Hargrove resonates in her thoughts. This is not a triumph. It marks the initial phase of a more significant struggle. Sarah Coleman strides in, setting down a pile of newspapers on the desk with purpose. The Justice Department has initiated a federal investigation into Hargrove, she states, her voice tinged with both excitement and concern. They are examining each decision he has rendered over the past decade. Whitaker has also been suspended while awaiting questioning. Leavitt nods, yet her gaze remains fixed on a headline from the DC Chronicle's front page. Leavitt transforms justice into a political spectacle. The piece references unnamed individuals, labeling her as a manipulator who utilized the slap to advance Trump's agenda. She sets the paper aside. "They're attempting to undermine my credibility," she states, her tone steady yet incisive. "That indicates we are heading in the correct direction." However, the counteroffensive extends beyond the media. While Leavitt peruses her inbox, an email from an unfamiliar sender catches her attention. "You believe you've triumphed, yet you've merely touched the beginning. Step away, or the entire administration will face the consequences." She clutches her phone with intensity, fury igniting within her. This isn't the initial threat, yet this one resonates with a fresh intensity, more refined, more perilous. She sends it along to Sarah. "Forward this to security, please. I would like to find out its origin." Sarah nods, yet her eyes reveal a hint of worry. "Karoline, it's not only you they're aiming at. It's all of us in their sights." Meanwhile, Ethan Carter occupies his chaotic office at the Capitol Post, the light from his laptop casting a soft glow on his weary features. He is examining recent documents, a collection of transfers from the company to accounts associated with DC. Individuals in positions of power. Among the notable figures, Senator Robert Klein emerges prominently, recognized for his outspoken stance against Trump and his impassioned addresses on the importance of safeguarding democracy. Ethan jots down notes, Klein connected to Hargrove. He sends an email to Sarah, including initial evidence and a concise message. If Klein's involved, this transcends mere judicial matters. It's a matter of high-stakes politics. Sarah sends it to Leavitt, who peruses it in the soft glow of her office, her heart racing. Klein transcends the role of a senator. He embodies the essence of the opposition, wielding significant influence within Congress. In his opulent apartment, Hargrove finds himself cut off from the outside world. His phone buzzes with notifications from past allies, yet each call goes unanswered. Whitaker has betrayed him, and the Judges Association remains silent. With a shaky grip, he uncorks a bottle of whiskey, his eyes glued to the news unfolding before him. A segment from Leavitt's interview is featured, in which she asserts that justice does not conclude with a single individual. We will pursue it to the very end. Hargrove thumps his glass onto the table, his voice rough and raspy. She will obliterate it all. He punches in a number he doesn't recognize, his voice barely above a whisper. She's probing further. Take action before the Justice Department locates Klein. The voice on the other end responds, we have a strategy in place. Leavitt arrives home late, marking his first return in days. In the living room, her husband rises to embrace her. Are you all right? He inquires, his tone laced with worry. She nods, yet her gaze remains fixed on a family photo on the shelf, their son radiating joy in her embrace. The ominous messages echo in her thoughts, yet she manages to set them aside. We will overcome this, she asserts, her tone resolute, even as she grapples with the realization that the price might be steeper than she had anticipated. She sits, momentarily reflecting on the hearing, but when he inquires about Klein, she hesitates. If Klein is involved, she asserts, this won't merely concern Hargrove. It will encompass the entire system. The following morning, Leavitt convenes with the White House legal team, insisting they compile a dossier to urge the Justice Department to broaden the investigation to include Klein. We require concrete evidence. She states, her tone cutting, Klein isn't Hargrove. He has Congress supporting him. A cautionary voice advises, Karoline, if you set your sights on Klein, you'll capture the attention of all of D.C. Your adversary. She offers a slight smile. They've been my adversaries ever since Hargrove struck me. Ethan, in the meantime, obtains a new document from an unidentified source. Minutes from a private meeting between Klein and Whitaker, where they deliberate on judicial strategies aimed at dismantling Trump's allies. Ethan forwards it to Leavitt, adding a cautionary note. Be careful, someone is attempting to assist us, but they are frightened. Leavitt scans the document, her eyes aflame with intensity, and replies, prepare for the oppressor, we will go public shortly. She understands that time is of the essence. Hargrove's network may be dwindling, yet it remains formidable enough to retaliate. As she gets ready to depart from her office, another message comes through. You can't touch us, Leavitt. She clutches her phone, a wave of fury rising within her. Hargrove has succumbed. Whitaker has turned. Yet those who follow remain hidden in the darkness. She looks at Sarah. Let's organize the most impactful press conference possible. We are assigning names to each and every one of them. Sarah nods, her eyes reflecting a blend of admiration and concern. Leavitt emerges from her office, the hallway lights illuminating her silhouette, unwavering like an eternal fire. Hargrove initiated this, yet it will be Leavitt who brings it to completion. In the White House briefing room, Karoline Leavitt senses the heavy silence enveloping her. She stands poised behind the podium, her gaze sweeping over the sea of reporters, cameras, and microphones. Just hours ago, she gave the green light to the final statement, supported by irrefutable evidence from Ethan Carter, along with minutes from a private meeting between Senator Robert Klein and James Whitaker, where they deliberated on funding related to Judge Edward Hargrove's partial rulings. Leavitt is aware that appointing Klein will send ripples through D.C., yet she proceeds without a moment's hesitation. Hargrove ignited this conflict with a single blow, and she will conclude it with honesty. She inhales deeply, her voice cutting through the microphone with clarity. Today, we unveil compelling evidence that Senator Robert Klein has been financing a corrupt network within the federal judiciary, channeling funds from an Atlanta shell company to influence cases involving the current administration. The atmosphere buzzes with whispers, as flashes from cameras illuminate the scene incessantly. She raises a printout of the minutes, reading aloud, "We need Hargrove to maintain the line. Robert. The election lawsuits remain inaccessible to the public." Signed, James Whitaker. Journalists surge forward, clamoring for answers, yet Leavitt remains unfazed. This goes beyond Hargrove. It concerns those who believe they can purchase justice. Within the confines of his apartment, Hargrove observes the unfolding press conference on the television screen. The whiskey glass slipped from his grasp, shattering on the floor. He has faced suspension and isolation, and now Klein, the individual he believed to be invulnerable, is being pulled into the open. He stumbles upright, fingers tapping an unfamiliar number, yet silence greets him on the other end. Hargrove sinks into his chair, his gaze empty and distant. He understands that it's not merely power he's lost. It's everything. Ethan Carter, working at the Capitol Post, observes the repercussions. Klein, under scrutiny, rises to prominence, intertwined with posts lauding Leavitt and critiques suggesting she's manipulating justice. An email arrives from an anonymous source, warning him to tread carefully. Klein is not operating solo. Ethan quickly sends a message to Sarah Coleman, alerting her that the network might be more extensive than they initially believed. Sarah sends it over to Leavitt, who is making his way out of the press conference amidst a throng of reporters. She peruses it, her gaze steady and resolute. "We will locate them," she assures Sarah. Her voice was as unyielding as steel. In a matter of hours, Klein convenes an urgent press conference. Before Congress, he stands with silver hair and tired eyes, announcing his resignation. He describes the allegations as a misunderstanding, yet refrains from outright denial. He states that he is resigning to safeguard the integrity of this institution. Yet, the audience remains skeptical as journalists call out, "Were you connected to Hargrove?" Klein averted his gaze, remaining quiet. Leavitt observes the press conference from her office, her gaze cold and unyielding. Klein has fallen, yet she understands he's merely one fragment of the larger picture. Some remain concealed in the darkness. That evening, Leavitt receives a call from the Justice Department. Whitaker, facing intense scrutiny, has consented to provide testimony in hopes of receiving leniency. Within the confines of an interrogation room, he discloses that Klein was not merely a financier for Hargrove. Rather, he orchestrated a collaboration with a consortium of donors to manipulate cases linked to elections and media. They aim to undermine Trump, Whitaker states, his voice trembling. Hargrove merely played the role of the enforcer. Leavitt receives the news via Sarah, her gaze fiery and intense. She insists on obtaining the names of those donors. Sarah nods, cautioning, "Karoline, if you push this any further, they won't merely threaten. They'll take action." Leavitt arrives back at his place, experiencing a faint sense of relief for the first time in days. In the cozy embrace of the living room, her husband wraps his arms around her, softly murmuring, "You did it." She gazes at their son peacefully resting in his crib, her expression gentle. Klein has succumbed, Hargrove is in limbo, and Whitaker has turned, yet she still questions whether her battle is for justice or for Trump. She sets the question aside, immersing herself in the present moment. "I'm battling for this boy," she murmurs, gently holding her son's hand, "for a world where truth holds significance." The following morning, Leavitt convenes with the White House legal team, insisting they compile a dossier to identify the donors Whitaker referenced. "We press on," she asserts, her tone unwavering. A counsel interjects, "Karoline, you've already toppled a senator. They won't allow you to advance any further." Her smile remains steadfast. They find themselves with no option. She understands the price of this battle, the menacing messages, the damaging articles. Yet she is acutely aware that halting is not an option. In Washington, D.C., Karoline Leavitt takes her place at the White House podium, her gaze sweeping over the assembly of journalists. She has just concluded a press conference, revealing that the Justice Department has broadened its investigation to include the contributors supporting Senator Robert Klein, following the testimony of James Whitaker. Judge Edward Hargrove, now diminished, confronts criminal charges, while Klein has disappeared from the political scene. However, Leavitt does not experience complete triumph. She senses the presence of others hidden in the shadows, poised to retaliate. She retreats from the podium, bursts of light flashing behind her. Sarah Coleman stands by, offering her a newspaper that boldly proclaims, "Leavitt pushes judicial reform." The piece commends her for motivating fresh initiatives, advocating for independent oversight of judges, and promoting financial transparency in political matters. "You did it," Sarah says, her voice filled with admiration. Leavitt offers a faint smile in response. This is just the beginning. Her mind drifts to Hargrove, the sting of the slap and the menacing messages. They've fortified her spirit, yet also instilled in her the understanding that justice is a fire requiring constant care. That evening, Leavitt arrives home to find her husband engaged in playful antics with their son in the living room. She kneels, embracing the boy, experiencing a fleeting tranquility amidst the chaos of the political tempest. Her son's carefree smile fuels her determination, driving her to fight not only for Trump and justice but for a world where truth holds significance. "Mommy will make sure everything is just fine, all right?" She murmurs softly, and he chuckles, as though he comprehends. The following morning, she finds herself outside the White House, readying herself for yet another day of press engagements. Sunlight dances upon her golden locks, yet her gaze holds a steadfast determination. Hargrove, Whitaker, Klein, mere fragments in the grand narrative. The battle against corruption is a relentless pursuit. As she enters the briefing room, the microphones buzzing with anticipation, she realizes she has transformed the landscape. A fresh hashtag is gaining traction on Twitter, #LeavittALegacy. Justice, Leavitt understands, isn't a final goal. It's a fire she will pass down to her son, to DC. To all who hold that truth is worth the struggle. She inhales deeply, poised for the upcoming challenge. The narrative of Judge slaps Karoline Leavitt in court, followed by the rapid unraveling of his corrupt empire, poignantly captures the current tensions and challenges within American society, especially regarding political polarization, institutional abuse of power, and the significance of truth in the fight against injustice. In the narrative, Judge Edward Hargrove's strike against Karoline Leavitt transcends mere violence. It embodies the deeper issues of bias and the misuse of power, reflecting a recurring theme in American judicial and political controversies. Leavitt's journey, from revealing Hargrove's bribery evidence to uncovering Senator Robert Klein's corrupt network, illustrates the strength of determination and individual accountability in confronting the system. Elements such as threats to her family, social media smear campaigns, and backing from Sarah Coleman and Ethan Carter reflect the current landscape. The media frequently skews the truth, and those who dare to voice their opinions encounter significant dangers. Leavitt's struggle, supported by solid evidence such as emails and Ellen Harper's testimony, highlights the necessity for transparency and irrefutable proof in the pursuit of justice. This serves as a pertinent reminder for American society, where discussions about the integrity of public institutions are a constant battleground. Karoline Leavitt's narrative imparts an essential lesson for contemporary Americans. Advocating for truth demands bravery, readiness, and unwavering determination, even in the face of strong resistance. In the narrative, Leavitt stands firm against Hargrove's slap and threats aimed at her son and husband. Rather than retreating, she leverages her position as press secretary to reveal evidence, such as emails exchanged between Hargrove and Whitaker, as well as financial records from an Atlanta company, to bring corruption to light. This serves as a reminder that in a divided society, where trending topics such as the Hargrove scandal or the Leavitt legacy can influence perceptions, individuals have the power to effect change by collecting trustworthy information and disseminating it thoughtfully. Leavitt's actions, including safeguarding witness Ellen Harper and advocating for judicial reform, illustrate that addressing power abuse is not merely an impulsive response, but rather a prolonged endeavor that necessitates collaboration, as evidenced by her partnership with Sarah and Ethan. In reality, this holds true when we encounter injustice, be it in our workplace, within our community, or in the realm of politics. Do not remain silent. Instead, seek the truth, forge alliances, and diligently strive for justice. However, the narrative also serves as a cautionary tale about the price to be paid, illustrated by the smear campaigns and threats directed at Leavitt's family, urging us to safeguard what is truly important while we engage in our battles. Ultimately, Leavitt's legacy, marked by transparent judicial reforms, serves as a powerful reminder that a single courageous act, such as her response after the slap, has the potential to transform a system, provided we remain persistent. Join the channel to accompany Karoline Leavitt on her quest for justice, and be sure to catch the upcoming inspiring tales. We appreciate your presence, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video.